everyone. Good morning. This is my third episode of Morning Coffee with Jamila Jasper. This week I am live streaming every morning, Monday through Friday, because this is the time when I release chapters on Patreon, 6:15 a.m. And I just wanted to create a little video series talking about my books and spreading awareness of what is on the Patreon every day just for this week. Hi, Miles Marianne. Thank you for joining today. So I have a few topics prepared for today's video and I'm going to go through them, but the main series we'll be talking about today if you want something to look forward to. And I have all the hardcovers here to show you today. And this is the Laguna Grove Vipers hockey romance series. So before we get into that, I'm going to just give you guys a quick little run through on my work in progress because I've been doing that this week and I hope to some readers it's entertaining. So I basically worked through the opening scene of Long Island Butcher, which is the second book in the Long Island Mafia romance series. And book one and book two definitely have a connection with each other. And so I was kind of connecting the dots between the end of book one and the start of book two yesterday. And so that was a lot of fun to work out. The first chapter in the book, I'm pretty sure will be from Alexis's perspective. Sorry, it's just my book falling. And that is going to, I think, be very exciting because she's going to be an entirely new character. Hi, Kamiyu 2021. Thank you for joining today. So I also wrote another chapter of Powerless. Now, if you are already on the Patreon, you may notice that yesterday I said I was not going to post any more chapters until the 3rd. And at the time when I scheduled that, that was true. But now we're doing these live streams. So there will be a chapter of something coming out at 6:15 a.m. But it's going to be a surprise until it turns 6:15 and I show it to you on here. And if you're on the Patreon, you can read it. So something else that I did, which may be a hint, maybe not, is I worked on Adrian's Scorpio King yesterday. That book has been under construction for some time. It keeps expanding in length. It may end up being close to 25K. Yesterday, my update on here said that it was around 23K, and I just keep adding to the sex scenes, honestly. So I am busy. I am in the mines. I am working hard, hammering away at this book right now. So I've added way more to Scorpio King, and that is still an ongoing project. So I probably won't start writing another Zodiac romance for a while, but that is kind of what's coming out soon. So maybe the next one may be in December, possibly, for the next Zodiac romance. So that's just something, if you're interested in those, you can just keep in mind for the future. So now that I've covered, my work in progress, what I'm working on now, I wanted to talk today about these 3 books. Now, because they're hardcovers and they're glossy, they're reflecting a lot in my lights. So hopefully you can see them, and I will show you all 3 books as well, one by one. So this is my Laguna Grove Vipers series, and this was a hockey romance series. So I wanted to talk a bit about what inspired me to write this series. I have done a couple sports romance books in the past. I've written like a sports romance erotica. I have written Pregnant for His Teammate, which is a sports romance book. It's like a basketball romance, a little heavier on the erotic side than the basketball side. Hi, Yolanda 517. Thank you for joining this morning. So I have written a couple sports romance books before. Extra Stuffing was sort of a football romance book, but I wanted to do a completed series. And honestly, the main sport that I watch and understand is ice hockey. And I know that obviously a lot of white men play ice hockey, and this is interracial romance featuring Black women and white men. So I kind of wanted to step into the hockey romance and do something a little unexpected. However, let's get to talking about what I want to write in the future for sports romance in a bit, but let's just put a pin on that. So again, about this series, what about discrete covers? Because again, these, which I'll show you one by one in a bit, are not discrete at all. I actually do have a discrete cover version available online already. It's already up, but I don't have a copy of it yet to show you. And the link is not anywhere on any of my pages. You would have to search for it on Amazon to find it right now. But yes, there's a discrete cover version with all 3 of these books available. And when I get my copy, I will show you what it looks like and we'll talk about it a little bit more. So more about my inspiration for these books. I kind of tried to pick one hockey player that I liked, could research, could look at videos, memes, Pinterest, whatever, and learn more about to inspire each one. But I didn't do it exactly to match each player so that it corresponds to their life or anything like that. So I'll go into that a little bit more. I think in the first book, I kind of compared Cole a lot to Sidney Crosby, who I did a lot of research for in this book. And I also watched a few games where he played that season. And Cole's appearance is not at all like Sidney Crosby's in the book. We'll get to each book, but I tried to give him that attitude of leadership and the mannerisms of Sidney Crosby a lot. So Cole in book 1 is based a lot on the figure of Sidney Crosby, but not in terms of appearance, more in terms of kind of like his brand, his attitude, how he carries himself, and the role he kind of had on the team as a leader. The second book, Jace, is inspired by Tyler Sagan, and not by attitude at all, only appearance. It's just I couldn't get his appearance out of my mind writing that entire book. So I would say that visually they are almost identical in my mind. And so nothing about his appearance, attitude, how he plays was included in the book. But I did kind of base Jace's appearance a lot off of Tyler Sagan's. In terms of his attitude, I would say that Jace is kind of like a combination of kind of like the bad guy hockey players. If you are a hockey fan, or I'm sure there are these types of people in other sports too, the more aggressive players who a lot of people don't like because they feel like, oh, they're doing a lot of dirty hits on the ice, or I'm sure there's dirty tackles, and we'll get to football. So that was kind of what inspired Jace. And then Dustin, I have this written down. Dustin, again, was inspired, honestly, a little bit, I would say, by Trevor Zegras, who's like a young kind of rising star playing for the Anaheim Ducks. But again, Trevor Zegras is like really wholesome in real life from what it seems like, and Dustin is not. But I would say that I wanted to capture his kind of youthful spirit, and I kind of imagined Trevor Zegras is very sharp in interviews. And so I kind of imagined kind of like dark Trevor Zegras, like, because Dustin is a little bit calculating and manipulative, and that's kind of like the dark side of being charismatic and open. So that's kind of what inspired Dustin in book 3. So now that we're here, let's talk about a future sports romance before I go into these one by one. Will I be writing a future sports romance? Yes. Most likely that is what's going to come at the end of 2023. So I had to disappoint paranormal romance fans yesterday, although don't worry, you may not be disappointed for long. But football, I want to write and put out towards the end of next year. I have a problem, which is that I know very little about football, American football in this case. I know some things, but I am by no means an expert. I cannot tell you that much about the game. I don't know much about the players, the culture, the tailgates, the fans. It's just something that, for a lot of reasons, which I don't have time to get into today, I may do a whole other video about this. Football is not something that I have as much understanding of. But some readers sent me a picture of Travis Kelce, and I went and looked up how to pronounce his name, and apparently it's either Kels or Kelsey, but most people seem to say Kelsey, so that's what I'm going to go with today. Thank you, Miles Marianne. I have some ideas for how I can satisfy the paranormal romance readers soon, so hopefully that will work out for people, but I'll announce that in another video, not an early morning one, but a future one. So the pictures of Travis Kelce, I definitely found inspiring, and I thought, you know what? Let me look into this football thing a little more. So this year I will be doing some research on football players, football culture. Around here where I live, everybody is a huge Bills fan. So I had to learn who quarterback Josh Allen was recently. I'm learning what a tight end is. It's not fully related, but I listened to a 3-episode podcast on the Aaron Hernandez situation, and I have been just doing my style of random research, looking into football, and then I obviously have to watch more games to get a better understanding. So that's in process right now, and that is the main reason why I don't write more football romance, which I feel like would be very popular with my readers, is because I don't understand it, and it's something that I have to make the time to understand, so that when you get the book, you're like, okay, I watch football. She kind of knows what she's talking about. And of course, looking for hot guy inspiration is my number 1 or 2 or 3 priority watching these football games. And so that's what it's going to be in the future, some football. Now, again, if you're interested in more hockey, a different sport, more football, whatever it is, let me know in the comments, either in the live stream or after, if you're watching the video, what sports romance books you would like to see, which ones you wouldn't like to see, and if you have any ideas for unusual sports that you think the guys are hot and you want to see a book about it. I would really appreciate that. So now let's get to these bad boys. We're going to go through them one by one, similar to how I did yesterday, and hopefully probably after I talk about the first one, we will be ready to take a little break and look at what's on the Patreon. So book 1 in this series is Varsity Servant, and this book is a blackmail, enemies to lovers, bully hockey romance. Ooh, thank you, Miles Marianne. I do appreciate it. When you guys are coming out to support the football books, I'm like, okay, good. I hope I can be on the right track with them. So this is the hardcover version, by the way, and they're glossy. If you think they should not be glossy and should be matte instead, let me know, because I do make these. Well, Amazon prints them, but I can pick whether it's glossy or not. So let me know which ones you think you'd like better. And it's kind of, because it's a hardcover, it's kind of like the font is a little bigger. Let's see if I can get this close. So I don't know if this is too small for some people who are looking into the books, but this is what it looks like. Okay, thank you. That glossy is good. I like the glossy too, but I don't really know. Other people have different tastes, which is cool. So the couple in this book are Cole and Kaya. And the premise of this book is essentially Cole is a bad boy hockey player. He's kind of the type of guy who's never paying attention in class. He just gets by through life and school just being a hockey star on the team, and he doesn't really care much for academics. However, his coach slash mentor, Tuck Murphy, who is from a different series, which we'll talk about another time, encourages him to take a gender studies class, where he then meets Kaya, who does not like him because he is the epitome of privilege and being obnoxious, and she does not want to be around him because he's just the opposite of everything she stands for. And they are forced to work on a project together after they get into a heated discussion in their college class. Now, while working on this project, Kaya basically exposes herself in some way, not physically, but exposes herself in some way so that Cole gets some dirt on her. I don't want to spoil it, so I'm trying to loop around. If you've read the story, you know. So Cole gets some pretty serious dirt on her, which he then, of course, uses to blackmail her into a spicy relationship, let's say. So that is the premise of this book. No further spoilers, but that's essentially how it starts. Yes, it's dark. Yes, it's enemies to lovers. Yes, it's a bully romance. And after I go through all of these, I'll kind of talk about the different tropes in these books for a minute. So my favorite part of this book, I'm checking my notes to see, okay, did I get through everything? So my favorite part of this book, I would say, is all the sex scenes. So I'm trying to think of if there's something really specific, maybe the first time they do it, but I would say all the sex scenes in this book. This book is the lowest rated in the series, but I think that's because it is the most controversial. So if you don't know what you're getting into, you're probably, and this is just not a book if you're even remotely sensitive. I am actually an extremely sensitive person, so I get it. I don't actually hold it against people, but when I write, I just turn off that part of my brain that's tries to hold me back and says, "No, don't write that. It's too controversial." And I just write stuff. And I think that this book has a lot of funny moments. So try to take it as a lighthearted exploration of these things, because there's a lot of dark elements. And so I try to balance it by certain things being lighthearted. Okay, so Yolanda 517 asks, where do you get your sex scene inspiration from? Okay, well, I have to write a lot of sex scenes. So So these days, this is honestly what I do. I basically try to visualize first the place where they're gonna have sex, because to me, a lot of times, like, the setting and the environment is what makes the scene hot. So like if you're in the kitchen, that's kind of like quick and urgent, and you have that kind of, we could get caught because we're in the middle of the damn house. But a lot of the bedroom scenes are more romantic. And then if I want the moment to be really special, so like in Forced to Marry, which I talked about yesterday, I will think of like, okay, the bathtub, where is it going down? So I start with where it's going down, and then second, the emotions between the characters. And so I try and let the sex scene come organically from the emotional state the characters are in when they meet up. And so to me, that's why everyone can be a little bit different, because for example, in Forced to Submit, which again, I talked about yesterday, when Mateo and Zara, basically an extremely emotional situation provokes Mateo to drink, and then they basically have sex. And so that the emotional situation provoked everything that happened. And so I just start with one thing, and then I just write what my mind tells me those two characters would act like and behave like in that situation. So hopefully that helped a little. For this book, I definitely used my inspiration from just things that I witnessed in college. I am a writer. I'm actually very, very boring. I'm a very simple person who enjoys writing, but that also means I enjoy listening to people. And so a lot of this would be, lots of crazy college stories from other people would get put into this book. And of course, lots of spicy hookup situations in college dorms. That setting can be kind of like, grungy, first time experience. It's not exactly the fanciest place to be. And so that's kind of where a lot of things in this book came from. Thank you for asking, by the way. That's such a good question. Gave me so much to talk about. I'm keeping an eye on the time here. So before we get into the next one, I want to open up Patreon and show you what is going on today, because I posted two surprises. So first was this morning at 6:05, we have another cover, Fletcher, Sagittarius King, and this is most likely what's going to come out next. I don't want to confirm, there's no pre-order up, but most likely this is going to be the next Zodiac romance, and so I wanted to show the cover on Patreon this morning. And then the next chapter that I posted, even if I said I wasn't going to post a chapter, was the updated version of the first bit of Scorpio King, and I added a prologue. So I don't think I have posted the prologue at all yet, so this actually kind of by accident ended up on my no chapters days posting something entirely new. So this is from Adrian's perspective, and I just felt like without Adrian's initial perspective, the beginning of the story didn't make sense, and his motivations were too mysterious. He's supposed to be mysterious because I'm trying to go for a specific vibe for a Scorpio man, but he can't be so mysterious that we don't know what the hell is going on. So I added this prologue. I think it's, as a writer, you sometimes think your work is good and sometimes you think this is all garbage. So I can't give my honest opinions because I'm too close to when I wrote it right now, but I like it currently. I'm happy with posting it, and I think that it gives you insight into Adrian's twisted mind. So if that's interesting to you, that's up on Patreon to read. And tomorrow, again, I didn't plan to post a chapter, but there's going to be something new, and based on what this is, you'll probably be able to guess what it is. So that is what's coming next. So thank you for coming and watching the Patreon launch. I'm going to continue talking about the Varsity series, and we may be here a little bit, but not too long, hopefully. I'm trying to figure out what's a good length of time to stream, because if you let me, I will sit down and talk all day long. But I have other things to do. So the second book in the series is Varsity House Pet. This one, I hate choosing a favorite. I think this one I should pick why I like each one. This book I like because of the concept and the situation. I have to be honest, I just picked the title of this book because I said, this sounds controversial and effed up. I'm trying to write a dark romance, so I have to try to access that effed up part of my brain. I'll worry about what I write inside the book later. So I had the title picked out. I knew I really wanted to do it. The titles are really similar to, hold on, let me grab these. A rare move of me grabbing something off the shelf. The titles are similar to this series, which we'll talk about when I get some more copies of the mini versions. But the titles are similar. So I had the title picked out, but I didn't know what I was going to write. And then I kind of came up with what I thought was the most saucy premise for the book. So the couple in this book are Jace and Makiba. Makiba, and just a fun fact, is one of my favorite names. So I was really excited to get to write a book with a character who had that name. If you know anyone named Makiba and you're watching live or not, let me know. And you can tell them that I think their name is really cool. So in this book, the premise of this book is Makiba goes to Jace for help in dealing with a problem she's having with her ex-boyfriend, who I won't spoil too much of that because I could, but I'll let you read it. And if you have already read it, then you know what I'm talking about. And Jace sees an opportunity to basically blackmail her into a sexual relationship because so that she can learn what she wants to learn from him to handle her situation. Now, one thing leads to another. Oh boy, I am Manderosa. It's hard for me to read these like while I'm talking, so I'm sorry if I mispronounce things. And Yolanda517 says, I knew someone in high school with that name, and so did I. So that's probably the person I associate the most with it is her. And actually that's why I made Makiba in this book very, very dark skinned, because the Makiba that I knew in real life had very, very dark skin, and she was a very beautiful girl. And so to connect that first Makiba, that is why Makiba has very dark skin in this book. Fun fact. So essentially in this book, Jace attempts to blackmail Makiba, but things go very, very wrong, and she ends up in partial control of the situation. So you're going to think that this book, at some points, if you start reading, is going too far, but there are a lot of twists in this one. And I would say what I like the most about this book on second thought is there are the most twists and turns. So there we go. Tropes in this book: bullying, enemies to lovers, dark, hockey. I think they're all relatively the same. This book has my favorite first date scene out of all of them. So if you are looking for that, this is my opinion on that book. So the next one, we're going to talk about the last book in the series. Again, I wish I had the discrete covers to show you, but I'll do a whole other video about the discrete covers and maybe say some more interesting stuff about the series. So Varsity Property, the third book in the series. This is the one where the guy, so a lot of times people are like, how can you write this? I get that on TikTok. And it's like, because it's not real. In real life, stalkers are not sexy and are dangerous. I think we all know that. In book life, when the stalker is 6'4", he is incredibly attractive, and we're conducting a erotic romance fantasy. I think, it's fake, y'all. So Dustin is a stalkerish but insanely sexy hockey player who has been in love with Raven from a distance in the other books. I tried to hint at it a lot in book 2, I think, that there's some connection between them, but I'm pretty sure in book 1, and again, sometimes my memory is a little off on these things, so you guys can correct me, but I'm pretty sure Dustin approaches Raven at a party in book 1, and her friends basically tell them not to interact. So I've been trying to tease out this thing between them that Dustin hasn't been able to act on and Raven hasn't been able to act on. And it's a stalker romance. So Dustin and Raven are the main characters, and that's the main premise of this book, is Dustin has loved Raven from afar for a year, and he is sick of it. So he is taking matters into his own hands and convincing her to become his property in exchange for blank. You will have to read the book to find out, because I don't want to spoil it. I would say that the new tropes in this book: stalker, enemies to lovers, bully, forbidden love. That's the main stuff going on here. Nothing that different except the stalker thing from the other 2 books. Now, this book, I would say, has my favorite plot out of all of them. And I just liked the stalker romance thing. I don't know. Hi, Carassa lady. Thank you for joining today. Yeah, I just like the stalker romance. I don't know why. I liked that Dustin was following her every which way. I love that he was like so crazy about her. I just loved that. So, obviously, obviously, if you don't like that sort of thing and you think there is a no condition that stalkers can be sexy, Kara. Okay, Kara, thank you. Hi, Kara. Good morning. I actually have another friend who's named Kara, so I'm like smiling because I'm like, what are the odds? Lots of names that I recognize coming up today. So this book, again, it's similar to the others inside, you know, same font, glossy cover, whatnot. And my favorite part of this book was when the scene when the spiders get into Kaya's hair. So you can read this book to see what the heck I'm talking about. This book has the most shenanigans. This book is chock full of shenanigans. I like a lot of times in my third series to just no breaks. We're just writing whatever, all gas, no breaks. That's kind of my motto with writing the third book in the series sometimes. It was definitely true in the Redneck Rebel series, and it's true in this one. So I scattered all my books around. So let me grab them together and just show you one last time all three books. Varsity Servant, Varsity House Pet, and Varsity Property, and they're all on Amazon. Ebooks are free in Kindle Unlimited. Paperbacks are available, and they're a little cheaper than these, and the hardcovers are available too. I tried not to overcharge for the hardcovers, but I don't really fully set the prices. Amazon has like a minimum price you have to set, and then it's like you get 1 cent. So I try to put these up at a reasonable price. I've seen some authors sell hardcovers for $25. These are significantly less than that. I believe they're $16.99, but don't quote me on that. They're between $16 and $18. I can say that much. So this is that series, and that is mostly where we're going to end for today. I wanted to, before I go, talk about a question from Instagram 2 days ago. I said I was going to address all the questions, and then I only talked about one yesterday. And the question that I missed was, will there be more books, stories, mention of the Dukas and Paganis family? Yes, they are all my mafia romance series. You are going to notice little Easter eggs, and I'm going to try to make some of my favorite characters come back. One of the biggest things that I have an issue with is forgetting the names of all the kids in my books. I will be completely honest. There are so many babies. There are so many kids in every single book. And if you think about like the first Greek Mafia series, that's 3 kids and 3 books. And the next series, that's 6 books. And I swear everybody ends up having twins in the books. So that's 6 sets of twins, potentially. We're talking about 12 kids' names. I don't even know if I know 12 people. So I have to take if I have to go back and add the characters, I have to go back and remember all the kids that they have, all the kids' names. So sometimes I'm a little hesitant because it just takes more for me to go back and try and remember that. But that doesn't mean they won't be included in the future books. Yes, we're going to see several members of the Dukas family. Yes, we're going to see several members of the Paganis family. You definitely would have seen the Paganis family in the Amalfi Coast Brotherhood if you've read those. So I'm going to weave them in and out as much as possible. So with that being said, I'm going to just summarize what we talked about today. I'm kind of surprised that I'm already at my 30 minutes. I try to stay on here 30-minute mark because I did not expect to have so much to talk about in these books. But I guess because I wrote this series recently and I also really liked hockey and writing some books that weren't mafia romance stories for just a little break, I wanted to share these today. So we talked about these books. I gave an update about my work in progress at the beginning of the video. So I'm starting Long Island Butcher. I'm kind of working on that right now and still writing Powerless chapters. I also talked about some of the tropes in these series, which hopefully will let you know what you might be into. And also I answered that Instagram question. So if you have any more questions, I will try to make another post in my story today, but you can always just leave a comment, send me a DM about something you want me to address in the live video. There are going to be 2 more live videos at 6 a.m. this week. So 6 a.m. Thursday, 6 a.m. Friday. And then I will be on Saturday and Sunday on at 11 a.m. if there are any changes to that, I will make several posts all over the place to make sure that you know. And also, I think Instagram notifies people when I go live. I don't have any idea. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching and coming along today. I am very motivated to get up at 6 a.m. to talk to you guys for this week, but it is completely unsustainable. So if I do live streams during the week at any point, it will definitely not be at this time. It'll be much later. So stay tuned for more updates on that. If you want to, know more about my books and that sort of thing, consider just following on Instagram, joining my mailing list, Facebook. I'm all over the place. And consider also signing up to the Patreon. It's www.patreon.com/Jamila Jasper. Oh, Kara says possible hurricane here those days for me. And yes, I've been hearing about this hurricane. I've been so into my computer that writing that I only hear about this stuff from people who message me. And so I really, really hope that you are safe, and please stay safe, and your family and loved ones stay safe. I have a lot of family members who live in hurricane-prone regions, and so I know that anxiety and worry is a lot to deal with. And so I'm sending my love, my prayers, all of that to you and everyone down there. I hope that you'll be okay. And so I think I've run out of things to say officially this morning, unless I was in the middle of something and I forgot. But consider signing up to the Patreon if you're interested. Just check it out. I post on it every day, and so hopefully you can find something there that you're interested in. The lowest tier is $5 a month, and I do send out paperbacks to everyone in the US who signs up. So check that out if you're into it, and I hope that everyone has a great day, and stay safe, y'all, and I will catch you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Bye!
She be calling on a Monday, wanna meet on Tuesday, asking me to fix me up real nice. She can wait until the weekend, she wants off the deep end, telling me to bring the stuff I like. I don't wanna let her down sometimes.